let's see. Okay, let me get through got it. Okay, so I have a lot of material to go over with you today. This is your last session. So I want to congratulate you on being in your last session. The lot of material is that we're going to go through, talk about some of the key areas in the sales process, because from marketing, social media, it's very different, right? You're laying the groundwork for you to get into the sales aspect of it. And then the other part too is I did want to make sure I left you with one thing about exit strategies. Some of you may not be thinking about an exit, but I tell people all the time is if you can begin with the end in mind, there's all kinds of things that you'll do to lay the groundwork for growing your organization or your business. And so it's really good to think about exits. Okay, so what are we going to go over today? Emily, you want to throw up the agenda? We're going to talk about your target markets and clients. We're going to talk about the pipeline for the seller and the pipeline for prospects with the funnel, the sales funnel. We're going to go through you knowing more about setting sales goals with your business model. I have something I've developed over the years that can be used for anything. It just doesn't have to be used for sales, but it's an ASAP model that really gets down to some of the detail, especially as you start looking at wanting to make sure that you are focused on your pipeline of prospects for sales. And then we'll talk about some monitoring of progress with your sales. Who's the best person on your team to be doing the development, the sales. And then we'll talk about exit strategy. So as you can see, we've got a lot to go over. There will be time for questions. So Emily, you're gonna keep me prompted for time, okay? And what I did want to do though is just kind of get an overview of your business. I know many of you with your businesses, but I'd like to maybe talk with you about, you want to move to the next slide about businesses I mentioned to you that in the past 3 sessions, you had Lizette that talked to you about an overall marketing plan, some of the traditional ways of doing marketing. That all lays the groundwork for you identifying your target market, as well as it lays the groundwork for what social media you want, like where do you want to be, how will you reach your target market so that they can become sales prospects, okay? So that's why the sales process or the development process has a separation. A lot of times people say, I'm really good at marketing and, not really good at sales. Well, if you understand that it's 2 different processes, it takes different kinds of people or different kinds of skills to do both. Sometimes some of you have both hats on, but I think what we can do is especially identify is that the hat you need to have on is development, or should you get other assistance? Okay, so let's start with Fatima. Do you do development already in your organization? Are you in the development side, fundraising, or tell us just about your organization briefly, and do you do fundraising?
Not personally with April Parker Foundation. I know we do have a fundraising side, but I'm more on the program coordination side.
Okay, this will still be good for you because there's a lot of added value with having these skills, okay? And so at least you'll know what the process is. How about is it Dee Dee Feldman?
Dina.
Dina. Sorry. Dina, do you have with your organization, are you involved in the sales process?
Yes.
Do you have other people on your team also involved?
Nope.
And who would you say is your target market?
So I have multiple businesses, but for the kitchen, it's B2B. It's a very niche market. I don't really have to do a lot of sales for that because people come to me for the space. It's folks who need rental space for cooking.
Okay. So it's a kitchen space. Okay, and people come to you. And are you already overbooked or?
No, it's kind of an interesting situation. I get a lot of inquiries. What ends up happening though, I think because folks don't know all the nuances that they come across when you have to rent a kitchen, like the permitting, they think it's just the hourly rate that they have to factor, but there's a lot of upfront costs for them to get permitted. not my cost, but like the city, the business license, insurance, health department, state licensing. So by the time all is said and done, they need anywhere from like $1,000 to $1,500. I don't think people contact me knowing that. And so once they know, I get a lot of drop off. So I get a lot of people interested, but once I let them know what all the costs are involved, it takes them a while. Sometimes people circle back, sometimes I never hear back from folks. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic that I have that I'm not really sure
Okay.
if there's anything I can do about it.
Yeah, I actually think there's a way for you. That's prospects in your sales funnel. Okay, we will talk more about that. Emily, how about you? Are there others in your organization that do the development, or is it you? Or maybe she's not there. How about Vanessa? Vanessa,
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm here.
Okay.
I just had to,
okay.
had to unmute myself. Say it one more time.
Are there others that do the business development, or is it just you?
Oh, I was hoping that wasn't a question. I thought we moved on to a different one. Yes, it's just me.
Oh, well, it doesn't, I mean, I just wanted to know if you have a team also, like what are the support that you have? Okay, so you do the business development.
Correct.
Okay. And I know your business, but tell me, maybe you can share with others, are your clients B2B mostly or B2G?
B2B.
Okay. Okay, Vanessa.
Oh, yes. It's just a one-woman show over here.
And who's your target market?
Mainly females, in like their late 20s all the way up to like late 30s.
Okay. And how did you narrow that down to late 20s and late 30s?
Because that's majority of my clientele. I mean, I have older clients and like teenage clients, but for the most part, it's that in between that I kind of get.
Oh, okay, and Vanessa, can you remind me the services that you provide?
Yes, I do semi-permanent makeup, teeth whitening,
Okay.
lashes, and training courses.
Okay, and training also. Okay, that sounds good. And Marcus, how about you?
I guess tech. No, I won't even say. I don't know. I'm so new, so in this fear of nonprofit work, I think I want to say I'm not. I can't even say I'm a one-man show because, yeah, I have a lot of help and assistance. I would say, but my market is anyone who falls under a certain income level, particularly in the 6th district, 9th district, and I'm working on the 7th district.
Mhm.
Um,
Are they, but because they don't pay for your services, right? Do you get grants?
I haven't received, well, I've received a small grant from Farmers and Merchants, but typically it's local donors, it's people who support what I do and they'll give money. Oh, I take that back. LBCC wrote a grant for me. Yes. So I do utilize funds for that for my Loads of Love.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. So then maybe you keep listening, because I think that on the grant side, which will be considered to be B2B for you, is because it'll be nonprofits or educational institutions or cities and governments. Maybe think about that. And the other part too, when you were talking about who utilizes the services, is that can be also what you consider to be your target market for the clients. But obviously the individuals where you'll grow out your organization are the ones that pay for the individuals to use those services. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So just from everything that you heard from everyone, typically what an organization will do is you'll take a look at whether or not you are business to consumer. Business, like a coffee shop is business to consumer. People are coming in the door, their individual pay. Business to business, you're working directly with an organization, or business to government. You could be business to a nonprofit too, which is business to business. But it's important for you to know that, okay? The other thing is the demographics. When I asked Vanessa a little bit more about how she had drilled down to the age, is you do get a certain sense, especially on some of the business to consumer side, of not only the age, the gender, the income level, culture, language, who comes into your store or who comes in for individual, especially if it's business to consumer, where they live. This is information that you get over time. Once you determine what that target market is, then what you can do then is utilize all kinds of other tools that are out there to be able to figure out, like, how do I get to these individuals? Where do they work? What industry sector might they be in? What do they do? Where will I find them? How can I interact with them? So the they can also be is it can be an individual if it's a corporation, right? Is maybe sometimes the decision maker is in the organization is the chief financial officer. So you want to find out, how do I get to a conference that has CFOs at it? So that's the B2B side. I just want to make sure that you are understanding the whole target market side, because these are your prospects, so that you fill your funnel with prospects that'll be good prospects for selling to in your business. And then some of you may cover some of you have very local businesses. Some of you, like Emily, may cover like a local area, but then she has a region to look at within the Southern California region. You might want to do statewide. And typically organizations grow their territories because it takes a lot of work, right, to be able to get to individuals in these different sectors. So I just want to give you a sense of some of the things to look at as you're thinking about, how am I going to know more about the individuals, the organizations mostly, that will pay for these services. Okay. So with Marcus, with you is, yes, you're right. Individuals that utilize the services are really important, because you got to outreach to them so that they know about your organization. You're gonna put your hat on now as a development person to just say, oh, well, if I wanted to serve more individuals, then who would fund that? Who would fund providing those services? Okay, the same thing with you, Fatima, with your organization, with the nonprofit. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So this is your very typical pipeline. Many of you may be familiar with it, but what it is on your right-hand side is you, the seller. It's the pipeline. So typically what ends up happening when I work with organizations, companies, businesses, is I ask them, hey, what does your pipeline look like? And I get varied answers, which is really great. But this is what we want to be tracking. We want to be tracking what our pipeline looks like, because the only way to get down to the very end stage where the purchase is to fill your pipeline. So I don't know if you've worked with individuals, consultants, or people who are saying, what's in your pipeline? How are you qualifying them? It's about getting those prospects at the very top. And you use it, the way you do that is you utilize the information on your target market in order to determine whether or not the prospects even get in the pipeline, right? Because the more that you know about the organizations, the more you know about, what type of organization you're looking at. It's a healthcare organization. It's a healthcare organization that provides services in the area of caregivers, right? Is the more you're going to be able to really get down to the details of who should be on your list for the prospects. And you're going to see later, I'm going to have I have a Excel worksheet for you to be able to drill that down, and that is really critical. So the next stage is the whole side of qualifying those leads. Why do you even have them in the prospect pipeline? And so what you're going to do is you're going to qualify those leads. You may have an initial meeting with them. You want to define more about what the needs of the prospect are, because what it's going to be able to do, it's going to be able to tell you on the pipeline side is how much time am I going to need to be spending in order to convert this to a sale or purchase. Okay. Then what ends up happening is you go down to the pipeline stages, you, the seller, and you make an offer, which is a proposal, right? You propose something to them. You go back and forth and you negotiate because you filled their needs. They really want your services. Then you finalize that proposal. And then what ends up happening is you close the deal, which is the final agreement on when am I going to be paid, or when is my organization going to be paid? How much is that going to be over what period of time? So that's the closing the deal. Now I'm using some words that are B2B related, but they could also be for a grant. It's the same thing. It's a proposal that talks about a period of time. It talks about services rendered, and it also talks about the payment process of payment of fees. So with a couple of your companies that are more B2C, you're not going to have this long pipeline, but what you will still have, especially for the kitchen, is the prospecting part is, so in the universe out there, what would be some of the qualifications in order for me to pre-qualify who is in that prospect pipeline, in order for me to determine how much time I'm going to put into getting them through, because you're always going to get them through that discovery stage of qualifying the lead, the initial meeting, or the prospect needs. But what you might decide, especially I'm just going to give the kitchen example, is once you go through a survey or a question, and they say very upfront, oh, I had no idea it was going to cost me $1,500 in order to get these other pieces in place. What they may be then is they may be set aside to, okay, not right now, but a little bit later, or now that they're informed, they're still going to stay in my pipeline, but they're probably not someone who's going to go through the full qualifying to get to the agreement. So, when you had talked about, sometimes people come to us and they're in the prospects. This is where you're going to see later on, it's important to set up some tracking so that you can quickly move people out of the prospecting part, so that your funnel is really filled with qualified leads. Okay. So let's move to the next stage, and I'll talk about the sales funnel stage, because this is the actual, the client or consumer side of it. Okay, so on the sales funnel stages, just go, Emily, can you go back? It's the same, is you're looking now when you look at this on your left-hand side. So basically on the sales side for the potential client or customer, what you're going to find is the awareness part is still the prospecting. You have a list of 40 organizations. You're calling into these organizations, or someone's done a referral and you're talking with them. What the awareness part of it is you're sharing more about what the products and services are of your organization. They're becoming familiar with what services you can provide. That's the awareness side of it. Then what ends up happening is you're talking, what you're doing on the discovery side for the customer client is you're figuring out whether or not, am I talking to the right person? Is this the decision maker? Okay, so at that step 2, that is really critical, because if you're not talking to the right person, you can spend a whole lot of time sharing more about your products and services, but they're not the decision maker. They're going to have to take it to someone else. And so this is what's really key. The initial meeting will give you some of those signs of that. And this is what's going to be really key, especially for organizations that have like agreements where they are wanting to make sure that not only does the potential client know about their organization, but they also are the person who could decide on whether or not they will, form a partnership to do a grant, work with an organization to buy the services, do a pilot program that could turn into a contract or sale. So that part of the prospecting side is really important. It's really key to make sure that you continue to follow up with the right people. Okay. Now, sometimes it takes a while to get to that right person. So, but you're trying to get as close as you can to understanding who the decision maker is. And then along the way, get the supporters along board. And then you get to the evaluation part, whereas it is about making sure that you frame with the products and services that you have to offer, and you're putting things in writing, and you're talking more about, they are interested. And so what ends up happening is you're actually going after making sure that not only do they know about your products and services, but you're offering it, you're pricing it for them. And then the next step is that you go through negotiation with them. Then they say, oh yeah, you know what, we really want to work with you on your products and services, but you know, it may not be till fall of 2024. Okay. So this is the part of it that is the back and forth negotiation where you are continuing to figure out, are they an organization that I can close? Or is it an organization that I keep on my list and I go back to them in fall of 2024? Okay. So that's that step. And then the next step is for those organizations that they say, hey, you know what? We have some funds. We have to distribute that before the end of the year. You have the products and services that we need. You're a match for us. Okay. So just look at it this way. The sales funnel side of it is the client and the customer. And it's really determining what their needs are, how we can build a relationship with them. How can we follow up with them? Are we talking to the right person? And then the loyalty piece is about the service delivery. So for many of you who also wear that hat, I know Fatima, you said you're on the program delivery side. It's about making sure that the program delivery team is delivering what they said in the agreement. You know, if you're wearing all those hats is, you know, it's a little bit to juggle, but what it is what you're trying to do is provide the best quality of products, services, so that they become repeat customers. And that's that loyalty part. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next stage in the sale, and it's about the goals. So what you want to do is for your target markets is you want to make sure that you have segmented your targets. So in other words, is for a B2B business, maybe one of your target markets is healthcare and its hospitals. And one of them is healthcare in its caregiver homes. So these are all each different target markets. And the reason why you're segmenting them out separately is because you may have different pricing models. You also may have different products or services that you want to offer them. So what you're doing here is in essence is for your profit and loss statements is what you're doing is you're segmenting out all the different target markets so that when you go to your profit and loss statement, you will have a different revenue line item for each one of those target markets. Okay, so now I may be talking like very rapidly, and you might say, well, you know what, all I do on my profit and loss statements or my Excel spreadsheet or wherever it is that you put your revenue in, is I'll put revenue according to the clients. So what I'm going to just suggest to you is think through like who you identified as your target markets and how you can put them into your profit and loss statements according to functions. Okay. And because what it's going to do for you, it's going to help you along the way to be able to grow each one of what I would consider to be like your product and service line items or your revenue streams. Okay. So that's where understanding that target market, understanding those demographics, and also understanding that for those target markets, there can be different pricing models is important for when you do your sales projections. Okay. Because now you're going to get to, you know, how many contracts do I need for this particular category? What is the pricing for this particular target market? It can be very different. And it may sound like, well, there's a lot of detailed information, but that data, that analysis that you do on the data really helps you and it helps your team to grow your business because it's so specific that you know what you need in your prospect pipeline in that funnel. Okay, so it helps you to set the goals. It helps your projections to be going upwards, right? And also sometimes what it does is it can be surprising to you. There may be a certain target market or there may be a certain area that you said, hey, you know, I really thought that it was women between the ages of 20 and 30. But now I have this one service and there is not only a different target for it, but it also, it's very complementary to some of the other services that we're providing. So, you know, the reason why you're segmenting this out is because if you have to do something different with your marketing, if you have to do something different with informing your sales force, you're going to really get into how do I understand who I'm selling to, but also what is it about individuals? And this is what I want to emphasize the most. What is it about the individual client, the individual consumer that brings them to the close. You really want to understand that, okay? Because it's different for many people, but what it'll do is you can really work on shrinking that sales cycle. So always what you're thinking about is how do we put in really great customer service, really quality professional ways that we look at building relationships, but also how do we shrink that sales cycle so that we can put more in our profit and loss statement, we can put more in our pipeline that are qualified potential businesses or individuals that will buy from us. Okay, so I'm like at a halfway mark and I have a lot more to go through, but I just want to make sure that if you have a question, was there something in the chat that you get a chance to ask it so that I don't breeze through this and you haven't had a chance to ask a question?
Oh, I had just put in the chat, Vivian, that Jocelyn is also here. So she didn't share about her specific business.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Jocelyn, you want to share a little bit more about your target market?
You guys are so sweet. Sure. How's everybody doing today? So Howard Coaching and Consulting, I would consider us a B2B business and also B2G. I also run another business as well. So that one is also B2G and B2B. The demographics for Howard Coaching would be women. I'm noticing a lot of my clientele are 27 to 37, a variety of different industries, but they are women entrepreneurs that make between like 50 and 90K. And then my radius is pretty interesting. So I am based out of Long Beach, but I do have some clients that live in the Los Angeles area. And then I also run this same business in Texas. So I do need to travel sometimes from state to state, and it is opening up a little bit more nationally. So that's kind of cool. As far as fundraising, this was my first season of like heavy grant writing. So I had like multiple teams, Texas and California, and we were writing grants and having fiscal sponsors and all that stuff. And just recently went to a couple of events up in Los Angeles about procurement with the city and the county for upcoming projects and stuff like that. So this is definitely good stuff. And this pipeline, yeah, thank you. I needed that.
Okay, that sounds good, Jocelyn. Jocelyn, do you belong to any professional organizations?
Good question. No, and that's on my list.
Okay, I'm happy to talk with you about, especially for women business owners or women entrepreneurs, about some organizations you might want to get involved in, okay?
Thank you. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. So for all of you is one of the organizations that's out there that does a lot of work, not only working with business owners to get them visibility, marketing, either the B2B, B2G, or B2C side of it, is the National Association of Women Business Owners. The Long Beach Chamber has a women's. They have a whole segment that is focused on women entrepreneurs. And if you're thinking about certifications, and actually if you're also thinking about the business owner that is like the 50,000 to 90,000, you may want to consider the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, which is WeBank, where they certify women-owned businesses. But all of those people who are involved in that, whether they be local, there's state chapters, there's national, all those organizations are national, then that would be a pool that is in your target market. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next one. And I can talk with you more about that, Jocelyn, too, okay? Let's go to the next slide. And this is something that I've developed for clients over time, and it's been extremely helpful. And I'll just give you a quick story for one of my clients they gave me a list of their prospects, and they had it down to just the name of the organization. And they did actually put like what states they were located in, because they were a B2G company. And so I had them really drill it down. And of course they did it kicking and fighting, but they've gone from having 4 employees, now they have over 500 employees. And so, it works. I mean, you have to put the time in, to really get very focused on who it is you want to sell to. And also what priorities you're gonna make your sales process. So I always tell you, this ASAP model can work for anything. It can work for it can work for your operations, it can work for your marketing, it can work. So this is a worksheet. Okay, but I'm gonna use it for sales for you right now, and just say that sales is your top priority. So basically what would end up happening is you write in here that your priority, it's number one, it's sales. So what are the actions required is you're gonna actually take each one of your target markets and you will put steps to what you need to do in order to reach that target market, to be able to get them in that prospect pipeline. And not only get them in the prospect pipeline, but also be able to qualify them, okay? Because what's gonna end up happening is that you're gonna get really close to having a qualified pipeline. And there's a whole nother piece of, what I've worked with like middle market companies on, and it's what they call more, core, and poor. I want more of this type of clients. These are my core clients, and these are my poor customers. Meaning, as soon as I get the more and the core, the poor ones go out. And so why would we say that, right? Is because I'm just going to give you an example. Is sometimes there's clients that are slow pay. It takes them a long time to pay, right? You provide all the work, you provide all the services, you're doing your part and you're very professional, but that for whatever reasons they have challenges, right? And so we always want to be understanding, but we also understand is there's some value to our work. And so so that may be for those reasons a poor client, and you don't want to be spending a whole lot of time in it. You want to get your more clients, you want to get your core clients. So this is why we spend so much time on the prospecting and the qualifying side. It's because the most valuable resource in your business is you and your time. And so what you're trying to get to is, if somebody's going to stay in your pipeline, then they are an organization that not only do you want to get down to the loyalty side, but that in order to work and close a sale with them, it's going to take less effort. Okay, so it's that whole personal productivity side. The other part is revenue generated. Is sometimes people say, well, I don't have any idea, what this prospective client would pay. What you do know is what your products and services are, and you can do a range for the pricing. And the reason why you do this is because what you're going to do over time is you're going to say, okay, hey, for a $25,000 contract, it took just as much time as the $100,000 or $200,000 contract, right? So the idea of it is to do a little bit of analysis and do projections, because even with projections, what you're doing is you're refining it once organizations get through the full price process. It is about the refinement of your information, but you've got to do some projections at the beginning. The other help and support is if you think of it this way, is the who. So who in your network? What kind of help would you need in order to get to these particular customers, clients? Who's in my network, and what kind of help do I need? So, a lot of times we think about it and we say, oh, I might need to know more about, here's my, this is how business owners do. Here's my products and services. Can you refer someone to me? What I tell people is it's easier for someone to do referrals if you can be really specific, So in other words, I really like that, the business that said, hey, it's typically women's are 20 to 30 years old, that is an easy, and you might say, and what I found is, because of where my business is located, the radius is, about anybody that's in Long Beach or anybody that is 30 miles out or whatever it is. But the more information you can give, that's still it's only 3 components of some information. The more that they could say, oh, this is someone who might use it. Now there's probably something else, because I don't know if you called that cosmetology, but there's something else that you could probably share about a person who you so in other words, someone might, they haven't quite used some of your services, but maybe someone has a friend and they always get their nails done or whatever it is. They are willing to invest in some of these personal care services. And so, you could even say, hey, and if you know anyone in your network that gets their nails done, so you're probably doing many of those things, but all I'm saying to you is about the help and support the more you can share with individuals about specifically where you need the help and support, especially in sales, I think the more in fact, I've seen it, the more you will be able to keep building the relationships with these individuals and get that support. The barriers is, you know how what ends up happening is they always say no, but it's no, not right now. The barrier is why did they say no? Or what is it? What's happening with this particular target market that when I am trying to put agreements in front of people or get to the right person or close them, what is that barrier? You've got to be really clear about that. There's barriers everywhere, right? So what is the barrier? And then once again, the more you can identify that, the more you can get other help and support. And then estimated costs. This is just one of those areas that you could just say for yourself, for the revenue that we generate for this particular size contract, what does it typically cost us? And it's because what you're always looking for is profitability. And there's a whole nother session that we could do with you about how do I estimate costs. But that's a whole nother session. Okay. So I don't want you to get bogged down with that. But, you know, obviously, whatever clients you bring in, you want it to be profitable, right? And it doesn't always happen that way. Maybe sometimes your margins are really small. And this might also be the reason for a poor client, right? That you want to replace with a core and a more client is because, hey, they're really a great client. But in order for us to service them, it costs us about as much as they pay. So it's a little bit more of a break even. And do we want more of those customers? Okay. Okay, let's move to the next sheet. And you will be able, Emily will send you the slides, but she'll also send you an Excel spreadsheet with this. You can kind of play around with it with your clients. Okay, so with sales, it's always about monitoring progress. So, you know, it's in order to get your annual sales, and I talked about profitability, you got to really monitor not only the sales side, but the operations expense side. What is it costing us to service as clients? And of course, we want to increase the customer numbers. So interestingly enough, when you do a budget, and if you're not doing a budget, it's okay. You some people use QuickBooks to do a budget, some people use an Excel spreadsheet, but I'm suggesting that what you want to do is you want to start using something where you have the number of clients, customers that you want, and also what is it that the revenue comes in for each client so that you can do revenue projections. This is how we meet those goals, right? We do revenue projections. For businesses that have additional services, you can either think of cross-selling them to comparable or compatible services or upselling them to a next level of service. So that's more about individual B2Cs. And many of you see that, you know, like when in fact, if you go to a fast food chain, right? Go to Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, or they're all saying, do you want to supersize this, right? It gets to be a little bit much, but this is how they get individuals to upsell or cross-sell other products. You want to always look at monitoring your progress with customer retention, making sure when I said conversion rate is that you're looking at your prospect pipeline. And you're really figuring out, you know, like how much time is this taking me to convert these to a sale, to a contract? And so you're monitoring the days. You know, I'm thinking about, you know, that you have in your tracking system. This is the first day that I contacted this individual, and this is the day that they actually purchased something. And so for sometimes you're looking at like, oh, wow, that took a long time. But what you're doing now is you're having these experiences and analyzing this data. So this is where data is really powerful. You're analyzing the data so that you can make sure that you can slim down the sales process and the activities. So you can increase the productivity of yourself or the people on your sales team. Okay. So these are all things that you may be thinking, you know, it is me, I'm doing all this. Well, you know, wouldn't you rather be doing a segmenting your time? If you work a 60-hour week, right, that you know 30 hours is on sales. And if I'm a little bit more productive in this area, I might be able to do the same amount of revenue for the year and skinny that down to 20 hours, right? But the idea of it is to be able to monitor that progress in order for you to get there. And how many of you can just put it in the chat if you're using a CRM system, but there are customer relationship management systems where you can actually track, your prospects, the contacts that you have with them can be extremely helpful because then you know when to follow up. Then you know how to. Okay, so I see, is it Jocelyn that you have you're using CRM system? Marcus is using, okay. So many of you are using a CRM system. Good to get in the habit of doing that. It'll help you along the way. It'll help you. Okay, let's move to the next one. And that is, who is the best on your team to turn a prospect to a sales to revenue? So, I don't think this is rocket science. Is basically what you want to make sure is somebody understands your products and services. They really understand that, so that what ends up happening is, when we looked at what is the needs of the client, what we're not trying to do is trying to build a relationship. We're not trying to sell people something they don't need, right? But in order for people to know what the products and services are, because they have to be trained on it sometimes, or you have to know, like, as you're meeting with the potential client or potential customer, what are these products and services and how is it a match for what the individual is saying they need. Being highly professional is always, it's a great start. The highly professional side is more about you're excellent at follow through, you're customer service oriented. I was just at an event yesterday where people were doing pitches for startup tech companies. And it was interesting because one of the investors shared that with all the pitches that are done, he said only 10% of the individuals, when he follows up with them, they actually send some of the information. And this is like someone who could invest in these companies. And so, all I'm saying to you is that you have to make the time for follow through. And if you can't make the time to put together the package that you want, then just follow through, send an email, make a phone call, but give them a date when you can get the information to them, because it really goes a long way. It goes a long way to building the relationship. It also goes a long way to, if an organization says no, not right now, it only means no, not right now, especially if you have qualified this prospect. Is that consistent follow through? It's not harassment. It's not calling them, it's about getting kind of their timeline. Like, when should I follow up with you? What's the best time? Or sending them an article, or just keeping them in your loop, right? That resiliency that you have, or that one of your team members has, will eventually, they will buy from you. And I'll share a quick story. Is when I first started my company, is I had shared, my sister and my brother-in-law were both like international, they were top in sales. And I said to them, I'm like, well, how do you do that? What, what is that key element? And both of them said the same thing. It's about building the relationship. Once you build that relationship and people see that you have these qualities, is they're going to figure out how they can buy something from you. And I said to them, well, no, it doesn't really work that way. And they said, yes, it does. It does work that way. It may take a little while. It depends on the size. I mean, they were selling very large systems. They were selling like multi-million-dollar systems. But what I will tell you is they did say it's about that relationship building. It is about being a good listener. You have to be driven to want to close a sale. But that's what the record keeping is all about, right? So you can do the follow-up. And also on the other side of service delivery is, you need to be a team player within your company, because the quality of service depends on sometimes it, like you doing the delivery, or, like with Fatima, with your organization, someone else might get the grant, but you have to do the delivery. And so, team people, the people on the team who are doing delivery side really need to be heard from the sales force, because they have to deliver that quality of service. Okay, so it's a good feedback loop. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Oh, okay, so here's what the begin with the end in mind is that, when you start your business, all of you are growing your business, is, you might say, well, hey, I'm going to grow this business and I don't have an exit plan. Or I do have an exit plan. I know when I want to exit, about when I want to exit. I think I'll probably sell the business and I'll sell it for about this amount. No, it's gonna go to family members. One of my family members is gonna come in. My employees might want to buy it. I'll sell it to my employees. So these are just some things to think about. Or you might say, well, you know what, I'm just gonna keep, this is what many business owners say. I'm just gonna keep working in my business, working on my business, and then, I don't know, like one day maybe, someone will want to take it over or I'll close it. Because, especially with accounting firms, they have to think about that too, because, they have the technical expertise, they have the client base. And so they really have to stage and plan how they're going to either sell the business, transfer it over, or because the technical expertise goes with them, right? The relationships go with them. But if they plan with that exit in mind, what they're doing is they're searching for a potential buyer for their company. So all I'm suggesting that you do is, I would say in the next week, is sit down, write down what you think the exit for you is from your business, from your organization, from your business, because according to your personal goals. Because then what you're going to do is you're going to take it and you're going to put it in an envelope and put a date on it, and you're going to put your address on it. You can put a stamp on it, and you're going to mail it to yourself. And if you don't want to do all that stuff, bring it October 25th. Just give it to us. I will stick it in an envelope for you. You're going to put your address on it. I'll mail it to you. Because it's really interesting what ends up happening with people when they think that through, is there's a lot of things that you can prepare for, not only personally, but for your business, that will lay the groundwork for what you consider to be what that next personal step is. What that would entail for you to build this business in order to get to that place. And what it will do is it'll take you out of what we call working in your business, the day-to-day grind, to really working on your business, the bigger picture. So all I do is suggest that you consider doing this. I'm happy, like I said, if you want to bring it on October 25th, I'll mail it back to you, and then you can have that. Because what you'll do is you'll take a look at it for whatever date it is, a year from now, 5 years from now, or whatever. And most certainly, what I find with most business owners is that you got to have the perspective in mind. That's all. Okay, so what are our questions? Any questions?
Yeah, so as a nonprofit, you kind of know who your client is, but you mentioned something about who are your potential, I guess, funders for your ongoing resource. So how do you find those particular funders? Do you just use keywords? I feel like this is like an obvious question, but do you use keywords? Do you yeah, so how would you find particular groups of individuals to support your mission?
Okay, so you worked with underserved, underrepresented communities. Can you tell me the different lines of services that you provide to the individuals? And you said you had an LBCC grant, so was it that they approached you, or did you go to them?
I approached them. So right now I provide a free laundry service.
Okay.
We are expanding to hosting fluff and fold services for the unhoused and also our senior communities. So it started out with hosting these events strictly for LBCC students who are part of their basic need department. But we are expanding, and right now we just started this pilot program where if a student can't make it to a laundry event, they can fill out an application and receive a $25 voucher to get their clothes washed for free. Well, not free, but we'll give them $25.
Okay, so Marcus, if you want to do, I'm happy to do an hour session with you if you want, and I can help you fill that pipeline. Part of it is, as I do think is that for you, do you have partnerships with the Fluff and Folds? Is that?
So I have a partnership with a local laundry facility, but what I've come across when talking to people, you know, you go to these network events and then they ask you, what do you do? And you tell them, and the biggest thing is, that's a great idea, but who's funding it? Or where you get the money for this? And that's not what I want to hear. Like I would rather hear like, oh, here is a way where you can get money to fund your event. But there's always that first pessimistic response to your vision. But
Well, so what is the but? Tell me what the but is, and then I'll give you my response.
I don't know. I think when you talk to people who are also leaders in the community and that's their response, I don't know, I feel like there should be more what's what I'm looking for, direction as to
Okay.
where you can get the support. I'm not
Okay,
asking you to check
okay,
all your checkbook. That wasn't the point of the conversation. You asked me what I'm doing. And if you are a part of the community, I would expect like, okay, well, hey, that's a good idea. You know, have you tried looking into blah, 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 blah?
okay. Well, I think there's some ways. I mean, your business, you're just like a business owner. You're running a nonprofit. There's some ways to really look at, okay, what are the grants that are out there? I would think that, you know, you would put together a one pager about grants. You could take it to a bank, you could take it to banks because they have what they call CRA funding, community reinvestment funding. But being very specific about these are the services we provide. These are the different levels of sponsorships that we're looking for. That's one way to help. I do think most people don't want to have to figure it out. So Marcus, like I said, is I'm happy to help you get to that one pager and also figure out who some of your prospects can be. Because the more that it's, you know, we talked about at the beginning, the more that you can focus on the target market, who do you want to get this in front of so they give you grant funding, the more that you're going to be able to say to someone who could be a referral, oh, okay, what I found is like the education institution, they were able to write a grant with us. There are some banks that they use their CRA funding and they're right next door to the Fluff and Fold. And there are some of these laundry owners that will we need 5 more laundry owners in the city of Long Beach, you know. So the idea of it is really to be able to be that specific about who these partnerships can be with, and also what that sponsor level covers. So in other words, you could net out, what does $2,500 cover? It enables you know, 100 students to be able to get their laundry done in each one of the months. So I think it's about telling the story more so that people can relate to, who do I need to introduce Marcus to? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like the fact that you're on the internet looking, you know, looking at these grant opportunities, but you need a couple of grants. But I think you've got to be more, you've got to be able to put something in front of people for them to be able to make the decision about, okay, yes, this is something that we could do a grant for and invest in, or no, it's not. And then the other thing too is you know, we didn't get a chance to, is individual donors. And there's a whole nother route for you to go for individual donors.
All right. I know we only have a couple minutes left, but we did have questions from both Jocelyn and Dina. Jocelyn
Okay.
raised her hand first.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so super helpful information. Not necessarily a question, just like a small bit of advice for the gentleman with the laundromat service. I work with a lot of nonprofits and I've been in the grant writing like mindset lately, and I've been learning a lot about fiscal agents and fiscal sponsorship. And so I would suggest, and we can probably set aside some time and chat too, Marcus. I know we've bumped shoulders in different spaces in the community, but I would definitely suggest like partnering with another nonprofit who maybe is a little bit more advanced or whatnot, maybe has a little bit more more programs that may be aligned with what you're doing. And then they write you into their grant, you know, like they're already in the pipeline of receiving resources. And then, you know, you guys come together on some end, or you know, you go after your own grant and you utilize them as a fiscal sponsor or something of that nature. But we could chat more about like what that means and what that looks like. But as somebody in the community that has seen you, that is some advice that I could share to you.
Perfect. That is perfect. Thank you,
Thank
Jocelyn.
you.
I also see something for you, Marcus, that's in the chat. Emily, you wanna? I can read too. Did you see it in the chat? Marcus, don't get discouraged. I think your work is amazing. And I totally get it when folks don't support or provide resources, but don't let it get you down. Not everyone will see your vision, but don't let that discourage you. So you've got a whole group of people. And Emily, if you want to flip to the next slide too, because all of you are considered part of our LBCEI CEO forum now. And so, you know, there's ways that we would like to continue to work with you. What are the resources that are out there? Marcus, are you set up as a 501c3 already, or do you need to set that up?
Oh, I'm already set up as a 503(c).
Okay. Okay, so you can do your own fiscal receiving then too, but I think that, you know, Jocelyn had some good thoughts about partnership too. So I think that, you know, I see a couple of likes on that one comment from Gina, and so in the chat, and so, you know, I think you've got people here on this call who want to be supportive of your efforts, and I you know, I do think it's about you reaching out to us. Okay. Okay, and there was one more question.
From Dina, yes.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't really a question. I just wanted to, I ended up writing it just to let Marcus know that I feel his pain. You're not in a silo. I think that's one of the things that's really great about being in these forums in a small setting where we can kind of talk with each other and know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I've been in the nonprofit world for 2 years. I know nothing, but somehow or another, I figure it out. And I think the best piece of advice I could give you is let all these situations help you develop your superpower of resilience, because it does take a lot of grit. You just have to just like, you know, just like get it off your shoulders and then move on to the next person and get the next resource. But it's totally worth it, and the work that you do is so incredible. I'll definitely keep you in mind for any grants that come across my plate or collaborations. And I do second what Jocelyn said. The most success we have had, and our organization, and this is for my nonprofit, it felt like I was walking in mud, like constantly, like, ugh. And when we started collaborating with other organizations that were bigger than us, and it just took me constantly asking and talking to people and telling them and hearing the same thing that you said. Oh, how do you get funding? Well, how are you going to get funding? Oh, well, that market seems so small. And I was just like, I'm like, I don't need that right now. I already know that. But collaborating with other agencies that were bigger than us, and even some collaborations came across our plate that it didn't seem like it would be a match. Like we collaborated with the Arts Council of Long Beach, and we're a nonprofit urban farm, and out the gate, that wasn't someone that I would have thought we could have collaborated with, but they've actually helped us get about $20,000 in funding through grants that they wrote us into. So they were insanely helpful. And then now when I write grants for other bigger grants for myself, they write letters of support for us. So sometimes it might be money, sometimes it might be networking, and sometimes it might be like a letter of support. But yeah, don't let it get you down. You've got this.
All right. Well, I think that is a great place to end the session. We're a couple minutes over. I'm not going to send out the poll through this meeting. I will send it in a Google survey. So please answer that poll just because it helps us develop this program ongoing. We would love your feedback and hear about what you enjoyed learning and what you want to learn more of. Next Wednesday, as Vivian mentioned, is our culmination, our little party celebrating your process through this CEO forum. So congratulations for completing. And we'll have a little party next week. It's going to be at Future LB. It's a really cool facility in the Wrigley area. I hope everyone got an invitation. Please RSVP so we have a good head count. And Vivian will be there, our business experts will be there, and we're going to have some special guests. In addition, one thing that we didn't get to talk about today, but I would like to talk about when we're there next week, is a really special resource. I've actually mentioned it before here, a really special resource for small businesses, nonprofits, for networking, finding resources, and using AI to create lists to help you find the tools and resources you need to grow your business. So we'll be talking about that next week as well.
It's really great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Emily, let's talk. I have a lead for you, okay?
Oh, that Emily.
Oh, it's for Emily Woodman.
Oh,
Thank you,
okay. I didn't know
Mom.
which one. Okay.
Bye.
Okay,
Goodbye.
bye. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
See y'all next week.
Okay, let's see. Is there any other things in the chat? No?
Vivian, do you need me here for this, or can I just kind of
Oh, well, did you logged in though, right? No, I can just call. You know what, Emily, do you have my number? Why don't you just call me?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Bye.
everyone?
Bye-bye.